Have you ever been in a meeting where it was your turn to give a project update and in an effort to be clear and include all the details, your update sounded like this? We've been working hard on the design phase. There were some issues with the supplier, but hopefully that'll be resolved soon. We might finish by next week and then someone interrupts and says, "Wait, are we behind schedule or not?" It's a terrible feeling. It's frustrating to get interrupted. And even more, it's discouraging to be interrupted because your update was unclear. You are familiar with this project. You've been doing the work. But in that moment, your update was not understood by your listeners. If that has ever happened to you, this is what we're going to change in the lesson today. Even more, if you've ever felt unsure of what to say in a project update or how to say it clearly in English, this video is going to solve that problem. You're going to learn how to give an update that's organized, easy to follow, and sounds professional. Now, before we get into this strategy, I want to say this. If giving project updates in English makes you feel flustered, you're not alone. Many of my students, especially those who are thoughtful, careful with their words, and who want to say things just right, tell me that updates are one of the hardest parts of speaking English at work. And there is a reason for that. When you're sharing an update, there's pressure to sound informed, organized, and professional. But if you're nervous or translating in your mind as you speak, it's easy to start rambling, over-explaining, or using vague language. That's why I want to share a simple 3-part structure that's going to help you feel prepared, organized, and confident so that when it's your turn to speak, you'll know exactly what to say. Now, before we get there, I want to talk a little bit more about why these updates feel so frustrating in the first place and highlight what exactly might be going wrong. To do that, let's take a look at a typical project update. This is the kind of update I hear from my students before we work on structure and clarity. Here's the example. We've been working really hard on the project, and the team has been putting in extra hours. We had some issues with the supplier last week, but hopefully that will be resolved soon. We're trying to finish the design phase, and maybe we'll be done by next week. There's still a lot to do on the research section, and we might need some additional resources. All right, what's the problem here? The truth is, it's not wrong. It's not a grammar mistake, but it is hard to follow. And when we make our listeners work hard to understand us, they often leave with more questions than answers. So let's break this down. First, the speaker starts with way too many details. There's no clear summary or main point at the beginning. So the listener doesn't know what to focus on. Second, the language is vague and uncertain. Words like hopefully, maybe, we're trying to, they create doubt. Even if the speaker knows what's happening, this language makes it sound unclear or even unprepared. Third, the update jumps from one idea to another. There's no logical order. It goes from supplier issues to timelines to research needs, all in one paragraph. And finally, there's no clear action or request. The team listening to this update doesn't know what they're supposed to do next or what the speaker needs from them. And this is what leads to that awkward moment in the meeting when someone interrupts to ask, "So, are we behind schedule or not?" That's the moment we want to avoid. And the good news is we can by using a simple structure that helps your listener understand you immediately. So now that we know what often goes wrong, I want to show you what's possible for you when you have a clear, confident way to express your ideas. To do that, I want to tell you a story about my student, Mary. She joined a workshop with me because she had just accepted a new part-time position. Her role involved joining online meetings in English, and she was nervous. She told me, "I've never done this before. I don't know how to introduce myself clearly or how to support someone else's idea in a discussion." But after just one session, she felt completely different. In fact, this is what she told me later. I had a great meeting. I asked clarifying questions, I stayed focused, and everything felt smoother because I knew how to organize my thoughts clearly. That's exactly what I want for you. And it's what this framework is going to help you do. So let's take a look at it. To start, I want you to think about your project update like a set of IKEA instructions. If someone handed you a pile of wooden pieces, screws, and paper instructions with no photo on the box, how would you know what you're building? That's what happens when we give too many details before the main point. People get lost. They're trying to put the pieces together in their minds without knowing what the final result should look like. So let's fix that. Here's your simple 3-part structure you can use to give clear, confident project updates in English, whether you're in a team meeting, a one-on-one with your manager, or speaking to a group for the first time. The first step is to start with the headline. Just like a news article or a blog post, the headline gives others the main point right away. It tells your listener exactly what's happening so they're not left wondering. And in English-speaking workplaces, this is expected. We usually share the status first and then explain the details. Your headline should be just 1 or 2 sentences that answer this question. What's the status of the project right now? So to do that, here are some phrases you can use to get you started. First, the project is on track to meet the deadline, or we're facing some delays due to X. We've completed X and started Y. We're well ahead of schedule. We're mostly on track, but we're running into an issue with. Let's take a closer look at one of those in an example. Before we implement this structure, an update might sound like this. We've been working really hard on the app development. Testing hasn't started yet, but there are some fixes causing delays. And then after we put this structure in place, we're facing some delays with the app development project due to bug fixes. Do you hear the difference? The second version is focused, clear, and easy to follow. It gives your listener a clear picture of what's happening right away. So now I'd love for you to try this. I want you to think of a project you're working on right now. How could you share a status in just 1 sentence? Write it down. Or if you're watching this, you can also share it with me in the comments. I want you to think about what would your headline be. And once you've got your headline, you're ready for step 2, how to organize your details in a way that keeps your listener engaged and informed. So let's go there next. In English-speaking culture, after you've shared your headline, then your listener is ready for more information, but not too much and not all at once. To make your update easy to follow, organize your details in this order: progress, challenges, next steps. Let's walk through each one. First, your progress. What have you already completed? What has been done? In responding to this, you might say, so far we've completed, we've already finished, or we've made good progress on. After you have your progress, you can move on to any challenges or what problems, what delays are you facing. At this part of your update, you might say, the main challenge we're facing is, or we've had some delays because of. One issue we're working through is. And then third, your next steps. What happens next? What are your upcoming priorities? For this, you could use, our next steps are, we plan to, or we need to complete X before Y. Let me show you how all this sounds together. Imagine you've started your project update with this headline first. The customer service training program is facing some delays with scheduling across departments. And now, here's how you might share those details, focused on progress, challenges, and next steps. So far, we've booked the training rooms for the month of June. The main challenge we're facing is finding dates that work for all employees in each department to attend. So we've decided to send out a new availability survey and divide employees up into smaller groups. Clear, structured, and easy to follow. Did you notice how the speaker didn't over-explain or add unnecessary information? Just enough information to keep the team updated and make the clear next steps. So again, take a moment to think about a project you're working on, or imagine one. What would you include under your progress? What is a challenge you might need to mention? And what are the next steps? If you want, you can pause here for a moment to write those ideas down. And then when you're ready, let's move on to how you'll end your update. Because the way that you close matters just as much as how you start. So with that, let's move on to our final step. So at this point, you've shared your status, you've organized the details, and now it's time to close your update with clarity. Because again, how you end your message is just as important as how you begin. This is the moment when you answer the question, what happens next? And what do I need from you? This part of your update helps the team move forward. It ensures that your message doesn't just sound good, it creates progress. So to do that, here are a few phrases you can use. First, I'd appreciate your input on, or I'll send the updated timeline by. Could someone help me with? Please ensure. I need everyone to. I expect to have X ready by. And please expect an update on X in our next meeting. To see this in action, let's go back to our earlier example. We're going to put it all together. So once again, we'll start with the headline. The customer service training program is facing some delays with scheduling. So far, we've booked the rooms for June. But the main challenge is finding dates that work across all departments. So we've decided to send out a new availability survey and divide employees into smaller groups. And now here's our close. I need all department managers to ensure their teams complete the survey by Monday. Once we've reviewed the results, I'll create a revised schedule and I'll send it out on Wednesday. Please expect a final update in our end of the month meeting. Notice how the speaker here is clear, direct, and respectful. They're not demanding, they're simply communicating the expectations. This is where your update becomes truly effective. So as you practice this, I want you to ask yourself, what do I want the team to know, do, or expect after I finish speaking? When you include that in your closing, you turn your update into action. So at this point, I want you to take a moment to think back on the last project update you gave. How did it go? Did you start with a headline, or did you begin with too many details? Did you organize your thoughts clearly, or did you feel like you were jumping around from one thing to the next? Did you communicate what others needed to know or do next? If one of those areas felt challenging, that's okay. It's why you're here. So here's a simple practice you can do right now to help you implement this 3-step process. First, think of a project you're working on right now or one that you've worked on recently. I want you to take a moment to write out your update using that 3-part structure. Start with your headline, then add just enough detail focused on progress, challenges, and next steps. And then end with a clear expectation or a request. After you write that down, I'd love to see your 1-sentence headline in the comments. It's a great way to start building confidence and clarity, 1 sentence at a time. And if you want extra practice for an upcoming meeting or presentation, I've got something to help you with that. Anytime you want to feel calm, clear, and ready in real-life English conversations, I have a free fluency training that's the perfect next step. It's called How to Get the Confidence to Say What You Want in English. In this training, I share my most effective technique, the technique that I use with all my students to help them make real progress in speaking confidence and fluency. It's particularly helpful when you need to prepare for something important, like a project update, so that you don't feel caught off guard in the moment. You can find a link for that free training in the notes below this video and over at my Speak Confident English website. Now, if today's lesson was helpful to you, I'd love to know What's one part of the 3-step framework you want to practice the most? The headline, details, or closing? Take a moment and let me know in the comments. In addition to sharing that comment, you can also give this lesson a thumbs up here on YouTube. While you do that, make sure you subscribe so you never miss one of my Confident English lessons. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time.